Okay, firstly, massive fight coming up. Now, Eubank Jr. turned the fight down. Kell Brook's come out and said straight away, I'm going to take the fight.
Yeah.
From a promoter's point of view, how do you see Kell beating Golovkin?
With speed, with power, with intelligence, with ability. It's difficult for me to talk to, not non-believers, but people who don't really know Kell Brook, people who haven't seen the struggles at 147 pounds, haven't seen performances where we know it's not as good as he can be. And Sean Porter's a good example of that. People go, wow, what a performance. That was probably 70% of what Kell Brook can offer, because although he was in tremendous shape, he doesn't have the same physical capabilities that he would do if he wasn't depleting himself. It's just science. But he is a huge welterweight in the ring, and he happened to win a world title at that weight, and therefore we have to defend it. Up jumps a chance to do something outrageous, to be a great, and he's taking that chance. If this was Danny Jacobs, if this was Billy Joe Saunders, I think people would probably make Kell a slight favourite in those fights. It's not, it's Gennady Golovkin, and that's why people say he's tough enough fighting him as a middleweight. But all I can say to people who question that is, look at Kell Brook as a middleweight, yeah? And better still, look at him as a light middle moving up to middle to take the fight, because that's probably what he is. He just has a freak ability. He says he has a YY chromosome. I have no idea what that means, and I don't think he does either. But all I can tell you is, when Kell Brook got stabbed in Tenerife, the doctor pulled me out and said he will never fight again. He said there is no way he can train at the same intensity to be a fighter. Okay? And probably 3 months later, he was doing exactly the same thing that he was doing when he was in camp before, and maybe even more determined to do so. So he has a freak ability. Only special fighters have that ability. Same sort of thing. Gets cut in a fight, gets marked up, wakes up in the morning, it's like he's gone. You know, obviously the cut hasn't gone, but it's like, it's just, and that's I think that's genetic. So he has that genetic makeup that's very different to other fighters. Freak strength as well. I always remember sitting in his first time I ever met him. I mean, his dad thinks the world of him, obviously, and he says this kid will beat them all. And they talk about it, not just him, but I spoke to people who knew Kell Brook at 6, 7, and just freakish strength. You know, freakish strength, freakish power, and that's like the genetic kids. You know, sometimes there's a kid at school and he's like, you're 15 and he's like ripped with a six-pack, and you're sort of sitting there with one hair on your chest going, what's going on here? You know, and that's the kind of thing. Some people just have freakish strength, and that's what Kell has. Will he have it at 160? I believe he will, and that's why I believe he'll beat Gennady Golovkin. I know it's a huge ask, but there are so many things that I think Gennady Golovkin is either not expecting or won't be in his favour on September the 10th. Whether it's the time difference, whether it's walking out in a new arena, the noise, the intensity, the eyes of the world watching. So we know the challenge for Kell. Don't underestimate the challenge for Gennady in this fight as well. Different surroundings, different type of fight.
Yeah, I mean, Gennady does get hit. He hasn't been hit flush as of yet, but one thing Kell is really good at is, and one of his accuracy is timing. Now, this could be obviously a key factor in this fight. Now, do you see Kell having the power to be able to walk Golovkin down, control the centre of the ring, or do you think that his main...
Walking Golovkin down is not necessarily the best idea. When you're... I mean, people talk about the weight right now. I would say Kell Brook is about 4 or 5 pounds heavier than Gennady Golovkin right now. Okay, it doesn't really mean a lot. I think on the night, I think Kell will be 4 or 5 pounds lighter than Gennady Golovkin. There won't be a huge... You see a match-up,
quite even.
He's bigger, you know, he's taller, but he's not like... It's not. You don't look at it and go, oh dear.
It's not massive.
Like, oh, well, so, but he's going to have a size advantage over Kell Brook. We know that. We're not idiots. But Kell doesn't have to walk fighters down. You know, when he boxed Sean Porter, he just controlled him on the end of his shots. When he come close, he locked him up. Sean Porter couldn't move. everyone was saying Sean Porter was the Tyson of the welterweight division. Kell, play with him, but it was like when you watch it back, and Kell was not raw then, but he was a bit of a rookie. You know, he hadn't really had the big sets. Yeah. So that was a performance that everyone went wow, and we went yeah, good performance, nowhere near what we thought he'd do to him. But we need to see the levels from Kell Brook and how many levels he's got, and you only see that in a test like this.
Eddie, do you think what happened to Kell in Tenerife, like you say, near-death experience, do you think that's changed him? And with that in mind, do you think that's influenced this decision to kind of put it all on the line, risk it in such a big fight against such a big fight?
Maybe. I think also the frustration of not being able to land the fight. I mean, there's been a lot of pressure on me trying to find Kell Brook a fight, and it's like, people don't realise how frustrating it is. It's not like we don't have a pot of money to pay someone. You know, if we were like some small promoter who didn't have any power, but we just had a great fighter, that can sometimes happen where you haven't got the pot of money, or you can't pull the strings, or you can't find the broadcaster to back your fighter to have the super fight. Well, we've got the money, we've got the broadcaster, we've got the power, and yet I still couldn't do it. And I've got a history of making big fights. I'm quite good at it. But then you've got a fighter like Kell Brook. People don't see the phone calls that offers going into fighters in the division. Now, whether it's Danny Garcia, Adrian Broner, Jesse Vargas, you know, these kind of fighters. No, we didn't make enough of the first one because he was tied up in the fight. But it's like, oh yeah, no, it's going to have to be this much. And obviously, there's a level where you think, you know, we're paying more money. We did it for Charles Martin. Through the model of Sky Box Office, no one can earn that type of money outside of pay-per-view fighters in the US. So, you know, the Pacquiaos, the Mayweathers and the Alvarez is a very small number. So, you know, we were in a position, particularly with Vargas, where Kell Brook has to take short money to unify the division. You know, he was prepared to do that because I said to him, let's do this, let's get 2 belts and then we move on. And when the Eubank fight fell through and I called Kell Brook and I knew the numbers that Chris Eubank could make for this fight. And I said to Kell, you know, it's a shame you won't fight Golovkin because, mate, there's so much money in this fight. And he didn't even ask me how much money. He said, you know, I'll fight anyone. I said, well, would you fight Golovkin? He went, yeah. And that was it. And then it was speak to his dad, speak to his trainer.
24 hours did that take?
24 hours. No, other than, well, the accepting the fight took about 5 minutes. And then you have to go through the motions and the paperwork. But the structure was already in place. You know, we knew the deal for Eubank. Kell Brook took that deal. We knew the deal for Golovkin, same deal to fight Brook as it was to fight Eubank. So everything was drafted, everything was in place. When you've got someone who really wants the fight, they can happen. So fights don't happen when someone doesn't want it, generally. Or someone doesn't really want it. You know, you can want something, but you'll find a way to sort of not make it happen.